Hi Internet, my name is Jake and today I'm going to be drawing one of my many fascinating characters, which is based off of this guy, Ben 10. Let's get to it. Let's play some music while we're at it. Oh, we can barely hear anything. Yeah, there we go. So I'll be drawing this character. Well, not this character specifically, but we'll be drawing a character inspired from it. So let's minimize your size, push you to the corner as inspiration. The pose is like the only thing I'll properly take its inspiration. This is kind of, let me. So here I'm creating a base for the character. By the way, which I said previously, his name is Mirror Edge. If I didn't, now you know. I'm removing the main character base out of the way so I can actually, detail the original character that I'm going to make. The base and the pose was mostly for idealistic reasons so that I can actually have a base of what I'm making. Now I'm developing the character more in detail. And that'll involve a lot of angling. This is a base sketch. The first one was a base pose, now this is going to be a base sketch so you can actually get an idea of what I'm making. His main shape is sharp, everything is sharp because he's made out of crystal, like Diamond Head. And it's not like over the top too sharp at the beginning. Later on in the sketch, I add more and more details, but that's at a more refined sketch layer. Now I'm making the core for the character and designing the base aspects of how they look with the abdomen and all other areas. Now I'm angling the design so that I actually have a more rugged idea of what they are supposed to look like. Every now and then I turn off the layers to see what's right and what's wrong, along with sketching from the base inspiration to see what I'm making and see if I can get some cool inspiration from it. Now I'm making an angled point where I'm going to draw the character's hands from, and the other hand, which will be a fist. At first it was going to be an extended hand, so that's why you see at the beginning like an open hand design. Now it's a closed fist design. I'm sketching over it, but that won't matter later since I'm going to be making a whole other layer for it. Now I'm adding details to what would be the legs, well, creating the legs, and then adding details along the way. I was debating myself if I should make it like a 4-claw or 3-claw design, and I went with 3 claws since it's the most alien design I could come up with for this character. And now a debate I have with myself while designing it: should it be flat feet or clawed feet that actually have traction? And I decided the traction that I own, since it'll make more sense. Now I'm going on a more refined sketch, which is, well, as the name entails, it's more refined and gives me a more detailed idea of what I'm making. You might see me use some of the meaty bang tools to sharpen things, such as holding shift and scrolling across from point A to point B, but in the end I might not use them in the sketch layer since I'm still grinding out what they're supposed to look like. And right now I moved the head so that it's more centered to the chest, because that's where heads usually are, very centered along the chest. There's a type of symmetry with these kinds of designs. Now I'm adding more details to the abdomen, and as you can see in the video, I put on a jacket because it was cold. This is a more stylized design. Since this entity does not have muscles like humans do, I've decided to go with a more mellow design for body and stuff. And taking inspiration from the sharpness and the geometry of the original characters I was explaining to myself, I add more sharpness and stuff. Since the actual limbs have pyramid-like ends, I am designing a reverse concave pyramid in the arm extension, which you'll see later. And now I'm adding more depth and geometry to the arm design That'll be sharp. Again, now I'm using a ruler tool that comes with Medibank. And now I'm adding more depth to the arm, but not enough that it seems like overly fake. What I do here is I make one design and then I copy and paste that design multiple times because it was a design that I liked. And there will be a point where I reach that it's look kind of funky, but I should be fixing that in the line work. Now I just hit Control J and copy and paste it. No, duplicate it and then fix it. I do the same with the others. And now the thumb. And the thumb is like the weirdest one since thumbs are usually thick and all that junk. And then I fix them up a little bit, make sure everything looks right. And I erase with each layer. And I'm supposed to merge them at this point so that they're all conjoined. And I'm clicking on and off layers so I can actually tell what I'm making and what I'm not, what I've done and what I haven't. I realize here that I did not fully design the other arm, and I get to do that in the refine sketch. That's why it's called a refine sketch. Now I'm just adding more details to the fingers, which are crystal, and the thumb. The thumb I go with a simple triangle diamond design so I don't have to overstress myself. And you might see later on, I do fix a lot of how I designed the legs originally. That's mainly because of the pose and such. Because how I designed the torso and other things, I kind of changed around where the legs originally were. There's the concave pyramid design I was telling you about. That goes from the arm into there. And you can see how I had more of like this geode pristine crystal design. I was talking with someone on Discord, I think. And it's mainly towards the design of how the character is going to look in the end, rather than like how they will be. And it's more of a thing of looking as accurate to the real thing than like to how it looks. I had a debate with myself here about how the knee will look, since knees kind of bend in a certain way, the only way, forwards and back. But if you angle the knee, well, how will it look? And I decided upon that design. I'll angle the leg later because it's not proper enough in the final design, so I have to like angle it in its own way. Now I'm just adding the design of the core, which is part of a series of character aspects that I design. And I'm pretty strict with that design. It's actually based on a watch thing I have, but yeah. I have later removed these lines because I wanted them to be colored rather than like in the presence. Here I am fixing the leg, angling it. This is using the free to move tool. And then I figure out if I should make 2 character designs. But now we're going to the final ink layer. And I essentially use the shift tool, which when you click and then hold shift, you can actually see how that looks. When I hold shift and then I click from point A to point B, it creates a straight line. And I might be seeing like a difference from the original character design. I am using like angles and as such. This is actually a very characteristical design, mainly because of how shapes are. And here I'm explaining how the mouth works in the corner. And I am fixing the correction settings. Now I'm designing the eyes. I had to shift layers, I believe. And the diamond eye look was not going, so I had to use a shape, so I can then edit it to be sharp. I had to look square so I can actually diamond shape it in a new layer. because I'll be using this exact shape for the other one, but a little more shrunken because of perspective. Now here's a mistake I made. I duplicated it and then added a clipping mask on top so I can actually paint it white. That was a mistake. I should have gone and painted it, what's the word? Like invisible. Because then I could have easily later on saved myself a little bit of work, which was of editing the layer as a whole for it to look like proper colors as it was supposed to, which I could not. Here's another mistake I made. I made the eye over in the other side a little too small, the inner iris design. But overall, it should look fine in the final design. Those are his ear kind of things. I would have made just holes, but I didn't like the design of just holes, just little X's, because it reminded me of like a little animal butt, and I didn't want to have that in mind every time I look at the character. Now I'm adding the angle designs, which are just more line work than like angled designs, really. The concave pyramid on the inside is kind of tricky at first. And you might be seeing I'm not going like straight up, everything is a sharp line. Well, that's mainly because not everything is a sharp line in real life. Not even crystals are all completely sharp. They're sort of warped depending on the crystals you're looking at. I constantly am changing the shape of my pen tool so that I can use the shift ability more properly. And overall, it's a sort of a learning process. I'm pretty sure I made a new layer for this, and if I didn't, I probably made a new one and then I had it so that I could copy the exact same shape that I made there and then paste it elsewhere for the fingers, like I did in the sketch originally. I was planning on not doing that, but I ended up doing that regardless. But it still worked. The design still worked in the end for me. Now I'm remembering how fingers work in real life with this design, because I extend the fingers, their sizes and variations. Normally, our hands are kind of weird, because when you close a fist, all our fingers meet and all our top tarsals, I believe it's called, they all extend and reach at the same point. And that's supposed to be because of a genetic evolutionary thing. Eventually it shifts around so that when you open your hands, they're all different lengths. And because the hands are open in this design, the main middle finger is the tallest one, the longest one. Now we're just finishing up certain details of how we're going to design the hands and such, and now I am creating the chest area. I gotta remember that there is a slight angle at the chest because that's how our chests are designed. I made a new layer so that I can like delete it and erase it, so that I could actually paste it on the other layer. Again, the mistake of like how I made the eyes prevails a little more. I should have made the eyes more individually, and instead of like erasing and like duplicating the eye and posting it on top of the black eye design, the silhouette, I should have made it, copied it, pasted it, resized it, and then used the selection tool and erased it, then remove that layer and then do it to the other layer where the iris is. But overall, I liked how the piece came out, in my opinion. Now I designed the fingers more properly. This one I don't like copy paste it, since that's like kind of a time waster, in my opinion. That's the hand design, and then I make the sharp end of the arm. I should have made some connecting points on top so that it actually is obvious that there is a connection point to the arms. And with this little toe thing, I decided to copy and paste it since I like the original one better. I think I flipped it. Yeah, I did. and to make it more perfected. I'll take a little stretching break and I move on with my life. Later on, I eventually just kind of go back to the other leg, and I make the sharp design of the other one, of the other knee, which doesn't seem to fit with the other one, but it does. Trust me. Later on, when I was finished and like I stopped recording, I made sure I measured it up to the design, and it did look up to par. And see how I fixed the toes there, as I said previously? That's another thing. And the back toe design, like the heel design as well, I fixed it. Now I'm making the watch face a difference in the other layer. Now that I'm going to delete later as well, so that that's not there properly all the time. And I'm making that because I need to extend it to make it look three-dimensional. And then I start adding details for the chest and such. Now I'm adding the riveting of the chest kind of thing, so that the design isn't just overlapping. I forget to add like a chest design, like the make it three-dimensional up at this point. But overall, it's still looking pretty baller, if you ask me. Now I start erasing on the lower layers and stuff. And now I am dividing the layers to making sure that everything looks neato. Also erased the central design, because then I'm later, when I'm painting the design, it's gonna look proper, and instead of like just black lines, they're actually gonna be red. And also you might be wondering at this point, wait, but won't that mess up the main layer? No, I'm adding layers underneath. And then you might also be asking, if you're new to this, how are you erasing and like moving stuff and not erasing other lines? Well, that's also part of the job, learning how to do that and not do that. And I keep turning on and off layers just to make sure that everything is where it's supposed to be. And then I add the finger layers that I had made previously onto the main layer, where it's supposed to be there, at least. Now I design the eye design, as I had said previously. That's the mistake I made. I colored it on the segment that wasn't supposed to be. Yeah, shrink the eye. Shrink and extend the eye. And it's a hassle and a half, trust me. Just do the design of the eye, make sure to erase the inner part and make it like the background white, not so much like the color inside white. That's the mistake I made. At this point, the eye looks like it's hollowed out and it's a gem on its own, but that's not how it is. Now I'm adding final details and edges onto the legs and as such. And that's all part of like design and stuff. Usually with characters you see a lot of sharp angles and other things that make them, you know, distinct. And I kind of copy paste this in with the other ones so that I could actually make it consistent with the one that has and doesn't have a watch core. And also I noticed that if I remove the irises, they even with and without the irises, it looks weird. Without the eye sockets and the eyebrows, it looks weird, and without the eyes themselves, it looks weird. And now I'm moving things around so I know where everything is. There's the sketch layer and then there's the original layer, but I try not to delete the main shape of the original design I made for the character that I am basing off of. But I don't think I made that, so. Now I'm just sorting things out in another software so I can actually, design it properly. Probably chatting with someone on Discord as well again. I try not to do that as often when I'm drawing. I'm gonna do. Now make sure that the pen tool is working, because there was a moment where it wasn't. I had to log out for a second for it to work. Now I'm selecting the inner part of each and every layer of the design, which means literally everything, so that when I color, I can base myself around one specific design. So it's not like all lingering. Once that's done, which will probably be done with soon enough, we can start coloring, which I'll be using a gray tonality since he is called Mirror Edge, and that's for a reason. That's a really good reason. Mirror Edge is a Crystallian. He is from the planet of Christos, I believe, and he is supposed to be mirror colored. He is part of a force called the Emerald Guard, and they protect the emeralds that they have, which emeralds are really valuable to them. Emeralds grow very rarely in the world. Everyone kind of wants it. Now, lower geometry was easier to pick out because since it's bigger and like in the other segments, because it's farther away. The farther away a piece is, the less details you have to make. The closer it is, the more details you have to make. So the smaller the lines are when the closer they are, but the less lines they are when you're doing it farther away. Which is why the lines in certain things like the fist here and like the and the arms and such look bigger than the extra detailed fingers and such on other areas. Now I'm just making sure that I have every little crevice and such so that I can start painting properly. I was originally going to add reflections and such, but I decided to leave it matte. Mainly because I'm lazy. I do some final revisions to make sure everything is selected properly so I can actually paint it in the indicated layers. And I give it a once over matte look, as you do with anything, literally. I drop the backdrop black so that I can actually see where there are certain missing colors. I turn it on and off just to make sure that everything is like the way it's supposed to. Even so, I still make mistakes. But you wouldn't know that. Now it's just mostly gray painting, so nothing's actually missing. Now I change the hue, color, and saturation of certain things so that actually, the layers look nice. I decided to switch around so that the actual maculars of the design don't look overly on the top. And I make the inner core black because that's the design of the watch of the character. Again, this is a Ben 10 inspired piece because like the whole series is inspired by Ben 10, kind of like a statement of me trying to take control of what the people at the Ben 10 builders messed up. I finished making the one without the watch and as such to make sure that everything is properly done. And making sure that every layer and everything is in their respectable place. I'll make final base designs on the layers and as such. And make sure that everything is properly the way it's supposed to be. Make sure that everything goes where it's supposed to go. I then later realized that the eye layer is separated for some reason and I fixed it. Then I make sure that the color layers are where they're supposed to be, and I duplicate them like once or twice to make sure that they go where they're supposed to go. And I make sure that the separate versions are properly where they're supposed to be. And here's soon coming where the mistake that I made earlier happens. Which is that I accidentally painted the eyes on top rather than behind. Which is easier to paint them behind because then you like can hide certain mistakes behind the lines of the eyes. I stretch again, go back to work, have layers, and then actually start painting. They're gonna be like a golden-ish hue color. Then I realized that the mistake I made there. So then I duplicate the same eye design for the other layers. So yeah. And essentially this is the finished piece. However, I accidentally left out all the editing magic that was making this piece look real pretty behind, and I finished the design with a little something pretty that I made, which you will be seeing soon enough. But I did some work, I fixed up the layers, and I started making the text and as such. And I made sure that the design actually looks proper. Oh, you didn't capture this. Oh. Look at this. Check it out. Bam, that's an art piece right there. Alright, we can stop. See you guys.